We'll call our fourth budget workshop to order. If you have a cell phone, please put it on vibrate unless you want to donate $5 to the United Way. Mr. Manager, we will check with you for any changes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So a couple updates for you. First, on page 116 of your budget book, under Agape, this is cultural and recreational miscellaneous items. Under Agape, as you recall, and we've talked about this before, as you recall, last year, the board reduced funding for Agape, but it was a one-time reduction. We missed that when we put the budget together this year. So if you will go back in there, they're in the lower third of the line items there. If you'll go back and add $25,000 there, that would put it back where it should be, again, because it was a one-time reduction last year that the board voted on. Our proposal to you to balance that out is on page 61, contingency. If you'll take contingency from 50 down to 25, that would balance out that revenue and expenditure, and your budget would continue to be balanced. So that would be our recommendation on that one. Then we are going to start tonight on your service expansions. Again, those are items that are new or different or additional requests from existing agencies that are funded. So that starts on page 313 is the spreadsheet that has the breakdown of all those. Then the supporting documentation for those items is behind it. Couple of items on this one. So on page 313, if you will pull the sheriff's office service expansion request, they sent that over to us and said, please pull that, so you can scratch through that one. It is the third one on the list. There's also on page 103, there's an expansion item. That one got put in behind the youth services budget instead of in the back where it actually should have been. So that's Boys and Girls Club. Again, last year there was an increase to the Boys and Girls Club. So if you look on page 103, you'll see where they had requested $60,000. Last year, that was what you funded them last year, but 20 of that was a one-time addition. So they're actually asking for, under service expansion, they're asking for an additional 20 years ago. So we put the 40 back in there. So does that make sense? It's not 60, it's 20. They're just asking for additional 20 like you funded them last year, but that was one-time funding. So our proposal to you would be to slide them in or put them in right below the Register of Deeds when we go through this. The next item that we have for you, there was when the town of Chocowinity submitted their recreation request. As you'll recall, last year y'all made some adjustments to recreation funding. They are currently funded at a continuation budget of $15,000. We made a mistake when we got their request. We thought it was in addition to the 15, so we only show it looking on page 347. We only showed that as a $9,000 increase. It's actually a 24. They're asking for an additional 24 for some lighting. So that's on top of the continuation budget of 15. So scratch the 9, that should be 24. And I think those are all the items that we have corrections for you. So you're good to start on 313 with the general fund expansion item, and I think Anita's going to take that one.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. So the first item we have for expansion tonight is a proposed increase in 401k contributions for our general employees. And when I say general employees, I mean any non-law enforcement officer employees. So by general statute, the county is required to put in 5% of an officer's salary into their 401k. But that's not the law. There is no law for non-law enforcement officers or general employees. The county does, however, have a current plan for the non-LEO or general employees, and that plan is that if an employee doesn't give any contribution at all on their own, the county will put in 1% of their salary to their 401k. If an employee gives 1% or greater, then the county will put in 2%. So that's our current plan. And currently, we have 69 employees out of the 382 employees that are getting the 1% match from the county. And we have 247 employees that are getting the 2% match from the county. So 247 employees are giving at least 1% or more into their 401K or contributing that in order to get the 2% from the county. So I think for equity purposes, you know, we've presented this the last couple years and just feel like it would be a fair thing to recognize our non-LEO employees at the same level as our law enforcement officers with a 5% contribution. Now, we realize that it might not be possible to do that in 1 year, so what we've shown here is you know, the cost of maybe phasing that in. For example, if you look on page 315, so currently we've got the 1% and the 2%, but you could go the full 5% if you wanted to in 1 year. The cost of that would be $560,535. That's what we're estimating if you did the full 5%. And then, of course, if you decided to phase that in over, say, 3 years and just move it to 3% this year, we could figure a number on that for you, what the estimated cost would be, and so forth, the 4% the next year, and then 5% in the third year. So I want to present that to you tonight as an expansion request.
Okay, let me ask you this. On page 315, you have the column, employee contributions and county contributions. You said even if they don't contribute, they'll get at least 1%, but this is showing that if they don't give anything, they don't get anything.
Yes, I mean, that's flexible. That was our proposal. We could tweak that and leave that if the employee chose to contribute nothing, then we could still do the 1% as we're doing now. But that was our proposal, that we want the employee to have some contribution, have some skin in the game, and to at least make an effort to try to put some savings aside in order to get a match. That would be our proposal.
They recommended a change.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
procedural question. We're not going to vote on this
No,
tonight.
no.
We're just hearing it. Okay.
No, we just
Let me
get
throw
things
in
clear.
one more thing. The last time this thing came up, as I recall, if you didn't contribute, you didn't get anything. Now, I don't know when that was changed.
No, it's, and I'll refer to my deputy finance officer if I'm incorrect, but am I correct, Ashley, in saying that the county employees do not have to make a contribution to get 1% from the county?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. You get 1% automatically, and you have to contribute 1% or more to get the additional percent from the county.
Well, I don't remember when that was changed, but I remember voting that if you didn't contribute, you didn't get anything.
That's been in play ever since I've been here, and that's been 8 or 9 years now. So the difference is on this one, we are saying, or just remember that law enforcement are not required to contribute anything.
Right.
General statute requires that you contribute 5%. What this recommendation is that your general employees have to participate to get a match.
So that's a change from what it is today. You're recommending a change.
We are recommending that change based on this, but if the board said, no, we still want to continue to do the 1%, then you
No, I
can cross
understand.
that out.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm hearing this both ways. They have to contribute to get a match, but if they don't contribute, they get 1%. Is that it?
The current policy is that you get the general employees, LEOs, anybody who's considered a sworn law enforcement officer, by statute, the county has to contribute 5%. Law enforcement officers don't have to contribute anything. They get a 5% in there by statute. The county's policy is that if you contribute 1%, you get the additional from the county, but you don't have to contribute to get just the 1%.
That's right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, you can move to the next one.
So this is the tax assessor. They're requesting a part-time employee. Lloyd, you want to address that? Do you need this?
You got it. Take this one. That's a big one.
me have mine back.
Mine should be pretty simple. This is actually just a repeat of what I said before. I think I had two on there originally. I pulled back to one thing. The one thing that I've actually asked for is $30,000 for a part-time person to do present use value review. We've been rolling with that for 3 years now. As we go into a reval, certainly my staff and me are going to be focused on the reval, even through with the company here. We're going to be focused on the appeals to the reval, and certainly, at least for the length of 1 year, we would like to have somebody, and we have a lady already lined up that actually is retired from another county. Everything's fine for that. She's actually done this work. She's also a certified paralegal. We have her at the contract, if agreed upon, of course, would be $30,000 for this next year for her to do PUV auditing to make sure all that's going straight and to do some research on our part. It also should be a net gain for the county. I'm actually being conservative with that number. We're much above that now. But that would just, to be conservative, I would say we gain at least $20,000 to $30,000 in direct county revenue at least past the cost.
So this part-time employee, you're saying 1 year?
So right now, what I'm saying is, I believe my understanding was I'm asking for this person for 1 year. If that goes well and we're doing better, then you might see me back. But for this moment, for the agreement between me and her is we're saying at least through the reval, I really want to be able to get and do it through that at least. Is this a contract employee, did you say? I believe it would be, yes, sir. Okay. And again, I'm not going to say that next year I don't come back and say, this is wonderful, here's the funds. But certainly I'll own that I have a higher need this next year than I might the year after because of the reval going on and everything else. I have more of one going into this.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So your next item, your next one is emergency services. They actually have three. One is some reclassification of positions that they were waiting for some information from the MAPS group on, and then animal control and EMS.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for being able to speak with you a couple moments this afternoon. As the manager mentioned, we've been working with Human Resources and the MAPS group to take a look at two of our positions, our emergency manager position and our emergency management specialist position. At the time we went through the most recent pay study, I was the emergency manager filling in as the interim for emergency services director. Melissa was the emergency management specialist filling in for a vacant position in IT. And we believe those interviews may have muddied the water on those positions. So we've asked MAPS just to take, now that those positions are back full, we've asked MAPS to take a look at those to give us a determination on if there's any adjustment that needs to be made with those two positions. Unfortunately, I don't have that information back from MAPS yet. So as quick as I get that, I'll present it to you. We've tried to get it included in the budget process, but we're just not meeting that mark on information today.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Booth.
Yes, sir.
I understand that you was acting when MAPS was done, but the position was still there. Why they didn't do it while they was here doing it? Do you recall?
They did, but they were interviewing, when that interview took place, they interviewed me as the emergency manager and me as the acting director. And I believe our answers in that just muddied the responsibilities of those two positions. For example, on the emergency manager specifically, the MAPS in their determination had no supervisory role of that position. But in fact, that position does supervise one full-time employee and 3 part-time employees.
But my question is, when she done Carney was on medical leave. He was still
He was in the hospital.
Yeah, but they still had that position. They evaluated that position. Am I correct?
They did, and they interviewed me for both positions.
Okay, so I got it.
We don't know if it's going to result in a change or not. We've asked them to take a look at it, but what we're suspicious of is that the way
the MAP's done the job, it shouldn't, because there's a difference in you acting and that they interviewed you as the deputy, and they also interviewed you as the manager.
I believe the confusion came in when they were asking me, what am I responsible for? And delineating, is that the role of the emergency manager or the role of the director?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further?
No, not until we get the number.
Okay.
So I believe next on your agenda, we have processing fees for animal services. Is that correct as I look at those items? Credit card fees, yes, sir.
Right.
So as we discussed in the budget retreat several months ago, this fiscal year, thanks to your approval, we implemented a process at Animal Control that allowed people to pay for adoptions and animal control fees using a debit or credit card. And as that, we agreed to pilot it. We thought that it would be used quite a bit, and in fact it has. As of March, we had 422 transactions using that machine. That accounts for over half of our adoptions at our shelter this year. But with those devices, there is a service fee. The bulk of that is just a compliance fee that all of your companies apply to the use of their machine. That accounts for about $7. And then there's some others, 15 cents for each transaction, and different fees for credit and debit cards. But as we look at that and how we have used it this year, we anticipate using about $2,100 to $2,500 in credit card fees for this year. The benefit of that is it has made the adoption process much more efficient, and it's minimized the instances in which our employees are having to handle checks or cash. So in today's age, where everybody swipes a card and very few people carry cash and debit, we're asking to include this in our budget next year. It's a line item that would account for $2,500 in credit card fees for that convenience to the customer.
Questions?
In a lot of businesses right now, you see a 3% surcharge. Okay, restaurants all over the place. You going to do that?
That is not part of our proposal. Our proposal is to cover that fee as a cost of doing business, but we can certainly go by whatever direction you as the board would like. If I understand, we're currently not applying that charge in the water department. Am I right on that?
So the reason, $2,500 in the animal control budget is probably not that much, and probably something we could have absorbed as we built the budget. They could have cut something to try to do that. The reason it came back to y'all is because y'all told us not to do that without your permission. So that's why it's coming back to you. We have it two different ways. The board approved several years ago using credit cards or accepting credit cards for water bills and not charging that fee. But you also do that for taxes, but statutorily you are not allowed to discount taxes, so you have to pay the convenience fee. You have to pay the full rate if you are a customer paying for taxes. Does that make sense?
It does.
You got to pay the fee for taxes.
You have to pay everything, yes. The county is not allowed by law to, because you would essentially be discounting someone's taxes, and you're not allowed to do that.
So has adoptions gone up as a result of this?
Adoptions, our adoption numbers are up.
Okay.
Is it a result of this?
Well,
Probably, because it's much more convenient. What we had in the past was, it's kind of like that person that walks on a car lot to buy a car, and they realize, I don't have enough money, and they go home to get it, and they lose that sale. That was happening to us with adoptions. When people came to adopt an animal, realized, oh, I got to pay for cash or write a check, and all I've got is my card, I'll come back, and we never see them again.
But we have the opportunity of adjusting fees in animal control to compensate for that.
well, easiest way is just charge 3%.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, your last one.
So our last item is an item that we've discussed in previous budget years as well. That's a process in which would allow us to transition our QRV that's currently providing EMS coverage in the Blunts Creek area to a transport truck. The proposal that you have before you, again, recalling some data from the current year in the past calendar year, that unit as a QRV was a part of 300 patient contacts in the calendar year of 2022, which resulted in about 178 billable calls. All right, so we had a pretty in-depth conversation a few nights ago about the difference between billable calls and not, so we won't rehash that. But as you look at the cost of what that would take, I just want to take a moment to clarify these numbers, because there are some ranges there, okay, that go into how much this would actually cost. When you're looking at personnel, the range of numbers that you see, the 268 to 320, that is hiring an additional provider to pair up with our current paramedic that's already on the truck, right? So we would take that QRV, if this is approved, that QRV would no longer run as a QRV. And that person who's currently riding as the QRV paramedic would serve as one of the two people that would be needed on that transport truck, which means we have to hire a second. So this cost would be for 4 new employees. That's one for each of our 4 shifts because we're a 24/7 shift. And that price range is all going to depend on the certification in which we hire. Meaning if we hire a basic provider, 4 basic providers, we could be as cheap as $268,000. If we hire 4 paramedics, we could be as expensive as $320,000 for personnel. So when you see that range for salary, just know it's all on what we can recruit and hire in that process. And it may range. We may be able to get 2 paramedics and 2 basics. Our goal is to hire paramedics because that's much more flexible in our operations, particularly on the south side when we have just that need for some extended care without additional help close by. Right? So I did want to take a moment to clarify that range on personnel. When we look at...
Quick question before you go. Now, you're not going to come back and ask for another QRV for the south side. There won't be a QRV on the south side if we do this.
We would transition our current QRV to an ambulance. Now, what the future holds for the need of EMS there, I can't say we will never ask for another.
Well, I didn't mean never, but you have no plans to come back and ask for a QRV.
Again, I want to be careful.
This is important because I'm not going to vote to expand this thing and then find out all we're doing is adding staff with no benefit.
So I think I know what you're asking. So let me say, if you grant us the ability to transition our QRV for this coming budget year to a transport truck, do you want to see me back in March asking for a QRV again? No, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't want to see you back for 2 or 3 years unless you've got a total new justification that springs out of nowhere.
Right, and that's where I'm hesitant to say. That's where I'm hesitant to say we will never ask for a QRV.
Well, I didn't ask never, but
we just don't know what that looks like.
You have no plans or thoughts of having a QRV on the south side if we agree to this?
Based on current EMS calls and trends, I do not see that likely in the near future.
Anyone else? Okay.
Any other questions on the numbers that were included in the pricing? I know
I think it's important to know right now that that area that would be covered by the ambulance in Blunt's Creek and the one that's being covered right now by the QRV is the Blunt's Creek Fire Department district.
That's correct.
Okay. That's correct. That is not taxed for the purposes of a EMS unit. I mean, it's not for separate standalone. It's taxed, but it's split between Chocowinity and Aurora.
So the EMS tax, those citizens in the Blunt's Creek Fire District do pay an EMS tax. And depending on where they live, their EMS tax money either goes to Chocowinity EMS or it goes to Aurora. It does not currently come to us.
So
our QRV is funded, as we discussed, under general fund money.
Yeah. And there's no revenue for that QRV.
There's very little billable revenue that we can generate from it.
So if you look at the bottom line there on this, on page 321, you'll see what happens with a tax district change, the costs.
That's correct. So as the board, if you decide we're going to try to offset some of that cost and collect the tax for our transport unit instead of giving it to Aurora and Chocowinity by our estimates, you're adjusting those prices by about that much. And about 75% of that coverage district currently falls in Chocowinity's EMS district. They fall on the Chocowinity side.
But if you look at this with 300 visits a year by the present QRV on 3 shifts, what's really going to happen is you're going to take some of the pressure off coming north because that QRV will be shifted in this direction to fill some of the holes that happen when Chocowinity's busy and you have to send people down
Plus,
there.
Presumably, Washington's adding another unit,
Yeah,
so it'll get spread out quite a bit then.
yeah, that's right.
So just to add a little more color to that, the piece you would probably have to do the tax district adjustment
because taxing statutes require, you can't take money out of one district to pay for services in a different area. It has to be in that district. So, so just to be, you would probably need to change that taxing to put those funds, to carve out that area and take those funds and put them to the agency that was providing that service. But just to be in compliance with statute.
Okay, thank you. You have something else, Hood? I see your mic still on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So your next item starts on page 322. This is from the Facilities Division of Public Works. They're requesting a new FTE as a maintenance technician.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We are requesting an additional maintenance technician for the Facilities Maintenance Division of the Public Works Department. This is a very similar request that was made last year that was not approved. Some of our additional need regarding this request this year is we have added 2 additional buildings in that time that we are taking care of, as well as expectations seem to always grow on the occupants and the citizens who utilize these buildings. Just for current operations, we are currently composed of 3 employees, 1 maintenance supervisor, and 2 maintenance technicians. They take care of many items within the buildings: general carpentry, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, janitorial when needed. And that's a very short list for a very long list of tasks. We maintain 20 buildings over 238,000 square feet. They range from 4 years old to 238 years old, and we spread a distance of 55 miles between the different facilities. In addition to that, 2 of the buildings are occupied 24/7, 365, that being the detention center and the inpatient health care out of the Thailand building. The maintenance supervisor, he is responsible for prioritizing work tasks, scheduling of personnel and contractors, equipment, maintaining accurate records of activities, obtaining bids, and processing invoices. In addition to all this, he is physically out there performing labor to accomplish daily tasks. And because of that, it severely impacts his ability to do those first tasks, to run this section of the Public Works Department. It takes a lot of time. Y'all know it takes a lot of time to work with contractors. These days it takes a lot of calling people. Getting responses is hard. So that side of things is lacking because of his need to work physically on tasks around the buildings. We also have 2 maintenance technicians, and they are responsible for the day-to-day task as well as any other major projects that come up. One such thing this year was renovation of the 911 center. It wasn't necessarily planned out, but the way things worked out, it was something we needed to go ahead and do. And our guys took upon themselves to do most of these tasks instead of hiring out a crew to do everything. We do see several benefits to having a 4th person in the facilities division. Again, while the supervisor is performing those administrative functions, we could have 1 technician who was responsible for the lower complexity, more emergency type calls. Somebody's got a toilet that's clogged up, or there's a leak in a sink, or some light bulbs that need changed. The 1 technician could go and take care of those while we maintain a 2-person crew working on a major project. We don't want people climbing ladders by themselves as much as possible. So having a 2-person crew is very important for safety reasons as well as productivity. We also anticipate that we would be able to self-perform more of the task versus hiring additional contractors. Again, backing up, an additional technician would free up more of the supervisor's time where he could work on his daily task of administration of the department and the projects. But we also anticipate that some of his freed up time would be spent on the capital projects, which we talked about the other night, the need to bring in some contract labor to help us get caught up on those projects. If he's able to spend more time on that, maybe as we move into the future, we have less need for things like that. Also, what we have recently started doing is a on-call schedule where they rotate 1 week on, currently 1 week on, 1 week off, because we are down to 2 technicians. But this would allow us to add somebody to that rotation to lessen the burden on each of the employees of being on call for that week-long time. Because that impacts their personal time. They can't travel. They've got to remain in the county if they're on call, so spreading out that time allows them some more personal freedom. Also, it brings in another person who would be able to work nights and weekends if called back, and additional coverage for sickness or vacations or things like that. You'll see on the chart on that page, we did some comparisons to other local agencies, the community college and Beaufort County Schools. And you can see community college currently, they have 5 staff that are dedicated to tasks regarding maintenance. And when you take their square footage and divide it out, they have 57,874 square foot per person. We're currently at 79,591. So the next column over, Beaufort County Schools, is a little misleading. They're currently at 104,453 square foot per technician, but their maintenance staff does not include approximately 40 custodial staff spread around through the schools. Those custodial staff are probably taking care of a lot of the minor calls that our technicians are taking care of, as far as, light bulbs and water leaks or clogged toilets and things like that. So we, comparatively speaking to local agencies, we're spread more thin than they are. That's just kind of a comparison we thought would be a good thing to show. Another thing, we do estimate that by having this additional person and being able to more self-perform tasks, we are estimating, and this is strictly an estimate, could be higher, could be less. We think we would offset costs about $10,000 by being able to self-perform the task versus hiring them out. So for the expense of $55,500 for the new technician, really would be looking at about $45,500 recurring cost, because of their offset yearly for the hiring out additional contractors. One other thing I want to mention that's not really in here, currently we do not anticipate a need for an additional vehicle. If we move into this gets approved and we move into that would be requested at a next budget cycle.
Questions from commissioners?
I just have one. What's the 2 additional buildings that you have taken on?
One is the Economic Development Office.
I was under the impression that when we leased that, the person we leased it from was doing the maintenance on that building.
We are responsible for the day-to-day maintenance. Major items, I believe, and the manager may be able to help a little bit with this. If something major goes wrong with the building, that would be on the property owner.
Okay, and the second one?
The second one currently is the Aurora Medical Clinic. I know things are in work there, but we have spent a lot of time driving back and forth and making repairs down there this year.
But do you anticipate making them next year?
We anticipate having to service that building until something else is done with it.
Well, if nobody's in it, there ain't a whole lot of service to do to it, is it?
We've had a break-in that we had to go fix.
But they don't break in it every week, do they?
I don't know. I hope not. But, it's a facility that has to be maintained. There's HVAC that's running down there. We have to make sure that that's operational, and when it's not working, somebody's got to go fix it. And if water leaks, the utilities are on at the building, so we almost have to treat it, in essence, like it's occupied.
Commissioner Richardson.
You mentioned something that inpatient health care, where is that
Detox.
building?
That's the port. At Tideland.
At Tideland?
Yes, sir.
It's not within the Tideland building, is it?
It's the section off the back of the building. Port Human Services.
Okay, but it's inside of the building itself. It's not the freestanding building.
It's connected. It's like a
Silverthorne?
hallway.
Yes. That's it.
Okay. Who is using, who's putting people in that building? I mean, what is that about?
It's the detox facility, so there's people staying overnight.
Okay, but who puts people in the building and runs the building and benefits from the use of the building? What agency?
I do not know who that specifically is.
It's Port, it's the,
Port
It's the-
is a,
yeah, they're under a contract, I think, with the hospital to do that work. And we have to look out, we have to look out for the main structure of the building.
the main structure, not day-to-day,
We're not handling janitorial
right?
for them.
But when you say main structural, if there's a commode that's not working, we have to go fix it.
Yes.
Why doesn't the hospital do that? They're benefiting from it, we're not. I mean, how did we slide into this? We need to take a look at that. We need to take a look at that agreement on that building and what it's costing us, because the people that are getting the money and benefiting from it need to be paying for the upkeep of the building, not the taxpayers. So if we come back to us with a report on what our status is, I'd like to hear it.
Any other? Commissioner Walker?
When you add a new person, does that include personal tools? Do you provide tools to the new person?
We do, but they're shared tools. We stock some of the vehicles with a set of tools. They're not, a certain technician doesn't get their own set of tools necessarily. They're using shared tools.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So your next item starts on page 324, a reclassification of the public health education specialist to a public health educator 2. I don't see anybody from the health department here. Janelle's not here. So you can obviously read that one. It did
Soil
say
and
that.
water.
Yep. Soil and water is on page 325.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I got a little bit more of a voice tonight than I had last time. I'm here on behalf of the, what's that?
Are you going to sing?
Am I what?
Going to sing?
No, sir. You wouldn't want me to do that. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Soil and Water District, and it's something that we've been contemplating, and you see in your request what the amount of funds that we're asking for, and this is joined with an increase of 2.5% for both of our employees that we have on staff. And, why are we considering this? In our research, basically in comparable positions across the state and the United States, we're about 8 to 20%. I know it's a small jump, but we're about 8 to 20% below. Each of our employees are about 8 to 20% below their current midpoint, and quite a bit more below the national average for those type jobs. And mine's simple, why are we asking for this? I mean, one of the things that we rate our success over is the funds that we bring into the county, and every dollar that you put forth from a county perspective, how do we use that and what do we generate off of that? In 2009, in the last 5 years, in 2019, for every dollar that you put in, the county we got back from federal programs, from the federal, state, and local level, $7.40. $7.40 for every dollar that you put forth. In 2023, that number moved to $17.72. Basically an increase of about 139% in the last 5 years. And you say, well, the caveat is, well, there's a lot of programs. The Inflation Reduction Act, there's been a lot more programs there available. But without the staff and without the proper management of these programs, the documentation, the working with the landowners, we couldn't fulfill those needs. And by doing that, we brought these two associates has enabled us to bring in extra dollars to the county that hopefully will be spent in the county. So that's our simple request.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Brian, these positions are in the salary plan. So
They were studied. This was a request from the Soil and Water Board.
okay, do we have any idea how they stack up against our study?
I can bring it back to you, but they were studied during the salary study. There were adjustments made overall with salaries. This was a request by the Soil and Water Board.
Okay, but they're separate from the county employees? So we're given I'm confused then.
So
Help me understand that.
Okay, so they are county employees, but they are under supervision of the Soil and Water Board. They're funded by the county.
So we're talking about, we're talking about an additional 2.5% over our 3.5%?
That is the request of the Soil and Water Board.
Yes, sir, and that's why,
So-
when I opened up, I said an adjustment, because this is an adjustment for them to move them closer to the midpoint.
Well, I think we need to we need to know from, okay, where they stack against the study we just did. Because we adjusted everybody as a result of that study last year.
Understood. This is the research that, I myself conducted and we looked at.
Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, thank y'all for your time.
So on page 326, 327, and 328, these are additional requests from Cooperative Extension for additional funding for 3 of their programs.
Good evening. The board has been generous over the last few years to let us include some funding for individual programming areas. Those programming areas that we represented at Cooperative Extension are agriculture, 4-H, and family consumer sciences. And then, of course, we also have a horticulture. So actually, the horticultural agent, so actually it's 4 program areas. Again, you were gracious to give us $3,500 in programming for 4-H several years ago, and then we were able to get some reduced funding for the other programming areas in a subsequent budget. I think currently the 4-H budget or line item is $3,500. Again, that gives the agent the opportunity to purchase some supplies, to do a lot of the things that are needed to run the 4-H program, but the other 3 areas are funded currently at, I think, well, I thought I had it in front of me, $2,120. What we're each. What we'd like to do, and what I'd like to do, is to get enough funding to bring all 4 areas up to the level that 4-H is already at, so that the agents all are, being treated equally, or at least have equal funding to be able to do some of their programming. For instance, certainly in the ag world, just today I found out I have a weather station that I have several across the county, so I can monitor weather in real time. And of course, those weather stations have data plans that upload the data to a cloud, and I can see it. It archives that data, because I'm always getting requests from a farmer, hey, you think I can spray today? Is it too windy? And if I can pull my app up and check that weather in his area and say, hey, it's a little dicey, you better not, that's helpful. We can also archive that data, which is very helpful when I have to address a crop insurance adjuster who is working with a farmer, and they often will call an independent official, agricultural official like myself, to write a letter of support. And if I can pull that data up, I can say, yes, we had a freeze event leading up to this date when this wheat crop froze out. That is very helpful data for me. And those are examples of my drone. We were talking about that recently as well. Software programs to be able to utilize that technology is expensive. And so in the ag world, or on the ag side, that's why we'd like to get that money up. The FCS agent has, if you've been to the grocery store, what have prices done? They've done nothing but go up, and that's what she is doing. Louise Hensley, our agent, is going and purchasing, supplies for cooking classes and things of that nature, and to do with more interest in our program, it's costing more to put those programs on. And the horticulture agent, excuse me, again, we've got this teaching garden out there that is beautiful, and we've got volunteers who are working in it, but sometimes there are expenses there for various things, fertilizers and whatnot. So at the end of the day, what we're asking for is just to bring the other 3 program areas up to the same level as 4-H, so that we can, all have an equal chance at doing some programming in our respective areas.
So your total ask is $4,140?
I believe that's correct. Yes, I believe that's right. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
On the horticulture, is that the one that you share with Hyde County?
No, no, we do not share a position with Hyde County.
Okay.
That was the FCS agent, but that went away several years ago. Yeah. Well, no, let me back up. The horticulture agent actually serves 5 counties. He is based in Beaufort County. You're correct. We're not sharing him with one. We share him with 4 other counties: Martin, Hyde, Washington, Terrell. But remember that he is not costing you guys a dime. He is all state funded. He is housed in our office in Beaufort County. And again, you've been gracious to allow him some money so that he can operate. And he has a Master Gardener program.
I know this is a small amount that you're asking for, but are those 5 counties been asked to contribute?
All that money is used primarily for the teaching garden. Yes. Yeah. It's primarily for that purpose, or for him to do programming here in the county. The other counties, I don't think, have that, and I think that's one thing that makes it unique, and we're grateful for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So your next item is on page 329, Register of Deeds. It's for a digitization project.
She is not here. Register of Deeds.
I was told that this will be presented by YouTube, and I was here in case there was.
Does the board have any questions?
Well, I have a comment. I think we're talking about digitizing all of the records that haven't been digitized back to the year 1, if you will.
According to the agenda item, it says 620 real estate books from 1917 to 1967 and 29 indexes have not been digitized. So I think that's what this is proposing.
Yes, that's correct.
1917 to 67. Right now, we go back to 67.
68.
68 online, and we stop. We can't get into that.
That's correct.
We have to come to the courthouse.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Well, this is probably the only time I'm going to agree with the Register of Deeds, but this is something that needs to be done.
I'm glad I could be a part of that.
This is something that needs to be done. Most of these other counties have done the same thing.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that the county won't archive those books and keep those archives preserved forever. What we're doing is taking the information, indexing it, and making it available for the public and the citizens to have access to. It is also a better backup than microfilming it and send it to Raleigh with Secretary of State. So, yeah, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions?
No, that is all.
Thank you, guys.
So the next item is on page 330. This is a request from the Bath Recreation Department.
Oh, let me throw in one more thing before you get there. The money for this is going to come out of money that's in a fund, if I understand it correctly, that is already collected. We're going to draw down a separate fund, or is this going to come out of our general revenue?
It would be general revenue, but it would be a one-time, it would come out of fund balance. It would be a one-time capital expense, so it's not a recurring expense.
But she still turns over to us, the Register of Deeds still collects more money than it cost us to run her department. No?
I doubt it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
She does have automation in her budget, but it's not near enough to cover this.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you. My name is Daryl Norris. I'm the president of the Bath Recreation Department. And I came and visited you last year, made my presentation and request, to which you surprised us with great investment in not only our recreation programs, but the others as well. Too many times, I think everybody comes up and asks for more money and doesn't get to tell you about the awesome things we did with your money. So I want to take just a second and let you know about some of the fruits of your investment. With the funds that you gave us last year, along with some corporate sponsorships and grants that we received, we were able to install 2 new batting cages, enclose our press boxes, and install PA systems on our ball fields, as well as new bases, safety bases, and dugout maintenance on our fields. Do a little bit of drainage work as well, and get some irrigation lines put in. So we've made a lot of great improvements on our fields to make those better playable and safer playing areas for our youth. A little bit about the youth that we're serving. We're serving, I put in here over 200 kids, but when I actually pulled my numbers from registrations, we had a total over the last fiscal year of 390 registrations in our Bath Recreation Department. And some of those were the same kids playing fall ball and spring ball, but definitely over 200 individual kids themselves, ages 4 through 15. We play baseball, softball, t-ball, volleyball, all through our rec department. We offer these different programs, and we're all volunteer organization, from the president all the way down. The only people that get paid are the umpires that we contract with. So through our volunteers and our efforts, we've been able to stretch those dollars and provide the best program we possibly can. I come to you tonight again to ask for the same annual contribution that you agreed to last year, with the idea that what we plan to do with that is to add additional gravel parking, press boxes on our back 2 fields, and some grading and drainage on our fields. We recently bought dirt for our ball fields, and it's $2,000 per load for dirt for a ball field. And so it certainly goes quickly that way. In addition to that, this year we would like to make a one-time ask for our #1 capital improvement priority that we've identified and wanted for years. Out at the Bath Elementary School where we play, there are 4 fields that we use. 2 of them have lights, and they're old incandescent lights, but they're lights, and they work most of the time. Sometimes they trip a breaker and we have a 20-minute delay in a ball field. The back 2 fields, however, are unlit. And what that means is that we really can't use those fields except on the weekends. When we get later into the season, we can get in a 6 o'clock practice or something on those back 2 fields, but at night, those fields are not usable. We would really love to be able to put lights on those fields. And it was what we thought was a dream. And we got quotes. We quoted from Musco, which is the company who just did the soccer lights in Washington, and typically does government fields. They quoted us $125,000 per field. We thought that was ridiculous, and it's never going to happen. We did more research, and we actually talked with a company who was able to quote us $35,000 for the lights on just the back 2 fields. Now that was the lights themselves. Then we have to have poles put in, wires, that type of thing. What we're proposing is to add new lights to those back 2 fields, as well as replace the existing lights on the front 2 fields with all new LED lights. These LED lights do several things. One, they will reduce the electric bill. So though we're adding more lights, we should actually reduce the electric consumption. The other thing they do is they cast less light overspray onto the neighbors. So the neighbors around the fields are sensitive to the lights on our ball field, and we want to take that into concern. And so these LED lights allow us to focus that light on the fields. So altogether, with installation, poles, wire, and everything, it's about a $125,000 project. Of that, the Bath Rec Department has saved up about $25,000 that we can put towards that project, and we're asking you for a one-time increase of $100,000 to do this lighting project.
Commissioner Booth.
Did I understand you correctly, so that those fields belong to the school system?
Yes, sir.
Have you had the school system blessing to do this work?
We have spoke with the principal and members of the maintenance. We have not gone to the board, and we wanted to ensure that the funding was a real possibility before we go down that route.
Okay. You got some more questions?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Commissioner Walker.
What are your fees per participant?
That's a great question. Our fees this past season was $55 for baseball and softball, and $45, did I get that right, for T-ball. And I will note that those are actually lower than some of our other neighboring recreation programs. And I know you've probably all seen the debate about Washington raising their fees on students on that field. So we don't pay the school system a per kid fee for use of those fields, but the maintenance of those fields is done entirely by volunteers. My vice president back there has been my fields commissioner all season long, and he's out there dragging the fields and lining them and doing all those things. So we handle all of that, mowing the grass, we pay a contract for that through the rec department. So as a result, we don't pay any fees, and we're able to keep our participant fees low, and we intend to do that going forwards. Those participant fees basically are spent to pay our charter for Babe Ruth softball and Little Tar Heel baseball, as well as the insurance. We then use team sponsors to pay for uniforms and equipment like balls and catcher's gear and things.
What does it cost to sponsor a team?
$400 per team.
Okay.
Commissioner Rebholz. Randy.
What is the pool that is out there of potential people to play? Bath's pretty small.
Sure.
If you put all these lights up, are you going to actually increase participation rate?
We certainly hope so. We certainly hope that as we develop our facilities better, that it encourages folks to come to us. The other, beyond just the pool of regular kids and students that can come play in Bath, a few travel ball teams are also using these fields as well. And we hope to expand our offerings to be able to host tournaments and things like that. And having 4 playable fields into the evening is critical for that. In fact, this year, the Bath Rec Department is the host of the Babe Ruth All-Stars District Softball Tournament. So we're hosting that tournament June 8th and 9th and 10th. And in fact, I would like to invite all of you to come out to opening ceremony on June the 8th at 9 o'clock. I believe the chair I think he's agreed to actually throw out the first pitch for me. So come and watch to see if he can throw a strike. You know, it's a wonderful opportunity. It's a fundraiser for us, but it's also exposure and use of the fields and getting those kids down and doing some active activity instead of playing video games.
Just make sure the news media is there when Frankie throws that ball.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, will do.
So, and you probably know this, we've got requests from Bellhaven and others for expansion too.
Sure.
Somehow, I'm fully supportive of trying to keep our youth in sports. I think it does all the right things for their development long-term. But there's, you know, I don't want this to be like building golf courses where we got to the point where there were more golf courses than players.
Right.
So.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know how you come up with a forecast of what the max is, but it'd be helpful to know that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure either. Our official draw from players that are allowed to register is the school district, the Bath School District. On top of that would be any kids who are homeschooled or some sort of a charter or private school. They get choice, so they can go to any district. But officially, the kids are supposed to register within their school district. That's not always the case, obviously, but we definitely hope that this is an option. And with other fees going up, some of those families may find Bath to be a more advantageous place to play.
Do you offer any scholarships to kids that maybe can't afford it?
If I'm approached by somebody who talks about that, we typically work with our sponsors and community businesses to say, hey, we got some kids that need some help, and we can work through that. We do also offer, we have a scholarship fund where we actually give high school students scholarships for college. But as far as scholarships to cover their registration fees, we certainly would work that out if a need is expressed to us. We don't advertise that.
Okay, go ahead.
We want people to apply.
I'm glad you mentioned that. You've done a very good job at your resident participants here. I see, is these numbers this year's numbers or last year's numbers? I see you got 7 to 8 Washington residents playing in your league.
So those are the current numbers according to our registration system based on what the address says. Okay. If it's a Washington address or a Bath address. So that doesn't necessarily mean within the city limits of Washington. That just means their postal address says Washington.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think, let me ask real quick if there was anybody here from Boys and Girls Club. Okay, you had that one, we explained that one, but they're not here. So your next one would be Town of Belhaven, request for increase in recreation funding, page 343.
Is someone here from Belhaven? Okay, moving right along.
Your next one would be on page 347, Chocowinity Recreation. Remember, this is one we said we made a mistake on, so it's an additional request for $24,000.
Good afternoon. Daryl pretty well just explained Chocowinity to a T also, as far as most of his standards. Our draw and pool for Chocowinity is the town of Chocowinity, the city of Chocowinity, the county, south side of the river. Aurora doesn't necessarily have a rec department. Blunt's Creek doesn't have one, so we can draw from those kids if they decide to come that far. We are asking, we actually have 4 fields in our facility. Our big baseball field, which is the 15U field, it's been used for T-ball. It's been used for any, we can make it any size, but it's mainly our baseball field. It's the only field that Chocowinity's got does not have lights on it. It's never had lights the entire time the facility's been there. We cannot have games and practices, especially during the, during the cold times and stuff where it's dark early. This time of year, we did have a game the other night where by 8 o'clock we were pushing to get the game done because it was getting dark and it was getting not safe to play. So, I don't know if many of y'all have dealt with Miss Scarlett. Miss Scarlett Stokes is our treasurer and she's a bulldog when it comes to getting stuff done. And Miss Scarlett has went out, got quotes for these lights. We have some of the stuff. We have our poles and stuff. I think she was originally quoted over about $200,000 for the lights for this one field, and she's got it down now to somewhere in the $60,000, $70,000 range. And over the past 2 years, Ms. Scarlett has been getting grants and stuff to raise the money for these lights, and we are within $24,000 of having enough to have these lights done, which is what we're asking for, is $24,000. We can get this done. We can get this. We can get the current funds to meet our estimates to purchase lights, mounting brackets, wiring, conduit for installation. We have the poles on hand, and the lights will give us additional playing time as well as an increased number of teams that can play. This will complete lighting for our facility. Eventually, we will go through and start converting some of our older lights to LED. We have done one pole, one field, which was the best thing we ever done. Just a little bit of something about us. Since COVID, this is the largest season we've had as far as the amount of teams. We had a team this year in every age group, boys and girls. Since my wife and I have been involved, that is the first time that has happened in Chocowinity since COVID, since before COVID that I could think of. Our mission is always and has been, always will be to promote sportsmanship, basic fundamentals and skills for ball, and encourage playing for the fun of the game, as well as promoting camaraderie. Also promotes good physical and mental health through recreation activities. Again, it keeps the kids from playing video games and gets them out there to the ball field. Again, we appreciate your time, your consideration. If anybody has any questions, Mike can fill you in some of the same questions you had for him, maybe.
I have the same question.
Okay.
What is your participant fee?
Our fees start at $50 for T-ball and go up to $60 for 15U baseball and 16U softball.
And to sponsor a team costs?
Starts at $400, starts at $500 for a basic sponsorship and goes up to $600 if you want to sign on our sponsorship sign at the front gate.
Very good.
Which a lot of people do that one. So.
Right.
Any other questions?
Just with this, what would the increase be in participation? What do you think is going to happen? Same question.
Mr. Rebholz, I feel like we have a problem with in our league that we lose a lot of kids to Washington. It's a sad fact that a lot of them can just cross the river and be in Washington. Washington has a very, very nice facility. They have people paid to do their fields all day long, stuff we don't have. I feel like if we had the lights on this field, we could, I hope that we would be able to increase the amount of players that would sign up, the older players, the baseball players, the South Side players, middle school players, because we can get the South Side middle school players. And honestly, this year we've got a lot of those kids that would have went to Washington. We've got several kids. My coach, my 15U coach, has coached in Washington for 5 or 6 years, and he's come back to Chalkawindy this year to coach for us, brought his son back. I'm hoping that would increase. Last year we had 2 teams in 15U. This year we only had 1, but I got 16 kids on that one team. And we've done that mainly because I'm trying to get all my talent compressed to one team versus spreading it out on 2 teams. And I really feel like, same like he said, if we could get lights on the big field, we've had a lot of interest in all-star tournaments coming to Chalkawindy. We held one several years ago, but we couldn't do the older group because we didn't have lights on this field. And I feel like if we had lights on this field, we would be able to do more tournaments and generate more money and more funds for the town, well, for the rec department in Chalkawindy, not for the town of Chalkawindy. But
you're separate from the town.
We are absolutely separate from the town. This town owns our facilities, our buildings and grounds. They provide someone that mows our grass every other week, and they provide someone to clean the bathroom facilities. But other than that, we're separate. We're a separate entity.
And just to clarify, Bath is separate too, right? Or they leave?
Yes, sir. We're separate.
You're separate. Okay.
We provide the maintenance on the fields, but the fields are owned by the school system.
Yeah, and our fields are owned by the town, but we do all the maintenance on them. We actually have a teenager from that comes out and does our fields for us because he has a lot more time than we do. So, but yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So your next item is on page 351, Town of Washington Park.
Good evening, gentlemen. The town of Washington Park has enjoyed working with you for the past number of years. For the last few years, it's been a $5,000 grant, and we're asking for a $10,000 increase this year to $15,000. That money is going to pay most, if not all, of improvements to the tennis court surfaces. Like any surface, it wears, and we're at the point now where we're getting fissures, and they're expanding with every rain and every freeze in the wintertime. It's time to work on those courts again. They last 10 years. I could tell you that the courts are used, and the recreation program in Washington Park is very accessible to most county residents. We probably have more non-Washington Park resident use than we do Beaufort County residents using our facilities. That includes the open spaces down by the water, includes the tot lot right next to the tennis courts, and we have some other places in the park. I could give you statistics on use. I'll leave those with the manager and be glad to answer any questions. This is not rocket science. It's just normal. It's not for lack of maintenance. It's just the aging process of paving surfaces.
Questions from commissioners? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item is on page 356, Aurora Fossil Museum. Okay, 361, which is the Arts Council. I can tell you on page 365, no one is here from Highway 17 Association.
Okay. We'll continue to roll.
So then that takes us to 371, Ruth's House.
I'm glad you didn't miss your opportunity.
Thanks. Good evening. My name is Susan Coysen-Coton. I'm the new executive director for Ruth's House. Let me reintroduce Ruth's House. Many of you probably know the name, but we serve individuals who are experiencing domestic abuse, specifically. We help people who are being physically, mentally, verbally, sexually, psychologically, and/or financially abused or controlled by someone in their household or someone they're dating. We have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis hotline. We provide help in court, assistance with housing search, job search, basic counseling support groups, and an emergency shelter. We also facilitate a teen dating violence prevention program in Beaufort County Schools through the Beaufort County Health Department. So we collaborate with law enforcement, courts, social services, our fellow nonprofits, legal aid. It takes a village. Currently, we have 10 residents in shelter, 4 adults and 6 children. And we have answered 180 crisis calls this year. We believe in safe, everyone has the right to a safe relationship. We believe in safe and healthy families. We believe that safe families make a stronger and safer community. And we certainly believe in a safer and stronger Beaufort County. We thank you for your support in the past, and we thank you for considering our current request so we can help with operational expenses, managing the shelter, and helping abuse survivors.
Okay. Questions from commissioners? Thank you.
Thank you.
So your next item is from the North Carolina Estuarium on page 375. I'll give you a correction on that one as well. It's not 35 in capital outlay, it's 50. So I apologize for that one.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Tom Stroud, Director of the North Carolina Estuarium. And first, we'd like to thank you all for the many years of support that you've given the estuarium. The county was an essential partner in the development of the estuarium back in the 1990s, and we're here today to continue that legacy of working together. This past January, we celebrated 26 years of our operation since opening in 1998. And while we're very proud of our past, we know the time has come to do something transformational that will rejuvenate our message and capture the imagination of new generations. In considering possibilities for this, we saw that in the last few years, the state has been putting a lot of emphasis and money on restoring oyster populations in our sounds because of their unique combination of economic and environmental benefits. We began studying how we could connect with this initiative, and in 2022, we secured a planning grant from Nutrien to explore the concept further. With that grant, we spent months meeting with watermen, architects, builders, health department inspectors, kitchen suppliers, and others. We developed the concept of what we're calling the Estuarium Seafood School. This school will provide information not only about oysters, but also about other major fisheries of the Pamlico. And uniquely, it will also include a teaching kitchen where we'll offer a variety of programs on how to prepare North Carolina harvested seafood. The premise of the seafood school is to have seafood create a full circle of understanding and appreciation for estuaries. If you like blue crab, shrimp, fish, or shrimp on your plate, then you need to understand the connection between that, the health of the ecosystem they come from, and how they reach your plate in the first place. As a combination teaching kitchen and state-of-the-art exhibit, the seafood school will tie education about the estuary, about the generations of Beaufort County watermen who have worked it, and the process of creating a great seafood meal into a single space. Last year, we took this concept to Representative Kidwell, and he was able to secure $250,000 in funding from the state that we actually received this year to help make the seafood school a reality. We are requesting additional funding this year to help especially equip the kitchen and to fully realize our vision, and that's why we're here this evening. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Harbor Peoples. He's a consultant who's been working with us throughout this process, and he can tell you a little bit more specific about the kitchen especially.
Thanks for the invite. This is going to sound really vain, but I went to the dermatologist this morning, and I said, I have a meeting tonight, don't do anything drastic, and he proceeded to laser my entire face. So excuse me for that. Tom said it, and I want to make sure that I say it too, because I know that the word travels fast in a small town, and that is, I want to make sure that I thank everybody in Beaufort County. There's been a lot of people behind the scenes that have assisted us and that can't be here, that would fill the room practically. Fishermen, Chef Jamie Davis, who's nominated for James Beard, kitchen equipment people, men and women, agriculture farmers, the fishers, just on and on and on. Washington Park, I think the mayor just left, but he's also been a resource. Well, before we get to your questions on the actual, what our ask is for the kitchen equipment to go towards our greater goal, I'd like to explain a little bit about what is the use of the actual kitchen equipment to have a little something to walk away from. If you think about the estuarium and Tom saying the importance of what happens in our water here in town and all over the county and all the way out to the Outer Banks, is what, the easiest way for me to remember it is like whatever we put in the tide ends up on your table. And so with that in mind, we hope to try to use the seafood school and particularly this equipment to help educate in 3 different categories, which we're calling 3 E's. And that's kind of an easy way to walk out of it if you have to repitch it to somebody. The first one being the first E's, most important, was education. Obviously, all the school groups, the homeschoolers, parents and people that are coming through, tourists, educating them about, Tom's mission and the mission of the estuary and that. We're also happy to announce a new addition to our educational component, and that is Beaufort County Community College has agreed to partner with us, and we will use and donate our kitchen when available to be a remote classroom for BCCC, so people south of the river or people that are in Washington but can't make it all the way out there can come to the seafood school and learn and take classes there as well. The second E is edutainment, half entertainment, half education. These will be programs that we hope to operate on weekends and at nights for adults where they can come and actually take classes on how to cook, how to prepare, how to catch. We find that a lot of people, particularly that are new moving to Washington, they want to be part of the Southern traditions, and seafood is the #1 thing that comes up, whether it's going to be a crab fry or an oyster boil, oyster boil. We want to expand our teaching to not only to children but to adults as well. And then the third part is just the flat-out entertainment part. We will plan to rent out this kitchen to Beaufort County residents that may want to have business meetings or may want to have a wedding or any other kind of event. And for the caterers that are actually in town, we will have a full kitchen that's already there to make catering an easier situation. So those are the kind of the 3 E's of how the kitchen equipment will be used and why we're requesting it. So I'll turn it over and Tom and I can answer any questions.
Let me ask you this question now. As far as the cooking school, is there a fee for that?
Yes, there will be a fee. There will be a fee for every adult class. It will not be during our normal operation times during the day, like the normal, they will pay the normal, I think, $3 or $4 fee for children, or in the classrooms pay the normal fee that the classrooms are already agreed to upon that they do. But as far as our extended classes, not just the exhibit that you would tour during the day to learn about the seafood. If you're going to come at night to, for instance, come take a class from Jamie Davis on how to fillet a fish, those classes for adults, there will be an adult-sized fee for that, yes.
Okay. Any other commissioners?
What will be the size of the facility?
The facility is,
Addition,
yeah, the way that we've built the actual kitchen teaching station, so the room itself will be in 4 cubes of 12 as far as length, for the actual exhibitry that you would just, kids would go or touch or play or watch videos, those kinds of things. But the kitchen footprint itself is much smaller. You can see at the very top there. There is a kitchen island in the middle of that, which is our teaching station, and it's, I would say, no more than 16 feet across. For a major use of the day, we will want to keep it, and this is, once we get our P&E and go through that part, the city will tell us what our occupancy rate is, but we're looking at, for kids, around 30 at a time, no more, but then adults around the actual the teaching station in the middle of the room, that would probably 12 to 15 adults will fit comfortably around that, while either the chef or the instructor will be on the other side of that.
I'm asking this for Mr. Langley. I looked through real quickly, and I didn't see anything about the fryers.
Yes.
Are there going to be something that fries the seafood?
Yes, there is a fryer there.
I must have missed it.
Yes, it's it's in the. I can.
All right.
It is that section. It's like 2 double dark rectangles side by side.
Good. Couldn't imagine you teaching seafood without frying it.
Yes, and we actually tried to do it for a while because we thought that it may be hazardous for children, but as we've gone through the work with the equipment people, we found out a way to shut those certain off, create barriers for children, and shut the gas off to that room when the seafood school is not in operation.
He's asking that for you?
No, he wasn't asking for me. He wanted to know. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So your next item is on page 382. It's the Pantigga Academy Historic Museum.
There's no one here. Moving right along.
On page 386, it's the Humane Society of Beaufort County.
Yeah. No, that's not them. That is.
Marty Poffenberger, I'm the president of the Humane Society, and we came before you 2 years ago to ask for a grant to help with a voucher program that addresses spaying and neutering of feral and, stray cats. We had gotten the 2 years of grants. Margaret Peterson, our chairperson for that committee, entered an application for an additional $5,000. Basically, it's because it's a program that's working and it's working well. Statistically, you do need aggressive, low-cost spay-neuter to really affect the populations in an area, and we definitely are seeing it make an impact. And I think the benefit to the county is that it's being used by a lot of citizens in the county. We do have some areas that we work on that, an area that has gotten a large colony, and we can go in, we have people that volunteer and go in and get those entire colonies spayed and neutered so that we're not adding to the population. But we also have a lot of citizens that instead of, say, I've got this cat that showed up, it had kittens, instead of taking the cat and kittens to the shelter, they will bring them for the $35 voucher price and have them spayed or neutered. So it's actually keeping them from turning them into the shelter. We really definitely have the support of Melanie and the officers out at the shelter. And like I said, we were just hoping for an additional $5,000 because, we have a project that's working. We do put and fundraise quite a bit ourselves, so we have a lot of people working hard. Our budget from, July of last year when the year would have started till, just April 20th, we have done 1,055 cats. And the cost to the Humane Society has been $81,000 for that. But that, still comes out to around, $75, $76 per cat. They pay the $35 voucher, so, it's only costing us around $40 or so for, per cat. So we're really getting a lot of bang for our buck and getting a lot of cats done when you're talking, thousands of cats, and I'm hoping that it'll impact, even more over the next few years. It's definitely a concern to the citizens of the county because there's just often people can tell you around town, where are these cats hanging out, and they see them and they're concerned. So I think it definitely shows the commissioners' compassion and concern for the problem that you've been supporting us. And I guess we're just asking for a little bit more.
Questions from commissioners?
Didn't we add dogs last year?
So the way we're handling that is that you're doing a $10,000 grant to the shelter. One of our problems with doing dogs is that you can pretty much identify feral stray cats. Everybody knows that they just show up. Dogs, it's a little harder because your surgeries are more expensive, and so you're handling that through the county and the shelter. And what she does is she's able to kind of screen, and she's getting those problem dogs. We would love to, as the numbers of cats come down and, that maybe we get a reduced need, jump in there and help with the program that Melanie's doing. So that's how you're attending to the dogs. It's mostly addressing, like if somebody's turned in a litter to the shelter, litter of puppies, Melanie goes out and says, or Officer Sawyer goes out and says, why don't you have the mom spayed? So that's where that money's going and how we're kind of working together.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
So the next one is the, on page 392, District 2 Recovery Court.
Nobody's here. Continue moving.
Okay, so 396, Open Door Community Center.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here today. Just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about what's going on at Open Door Women's Shelter. You guys are familiar. We're on 1240 Cowell Farm Road. We have 3 rooms in our shelter. Our goal this year is to expand the shelter. We have applied for financing with North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. It's very favorable terms, 0% interest rate with a non-amortizing 30-year loan. So basically, we can pay whatever we can afford each year based off of our proceeds that we raise. What we've asked for the county this year is, number one, I want to say thank you for the $4,000 that you guys gave us toward support of our operations last year. Thank you very much. We'd like to request that again this year. But in show of support for the expansion of the shelter, we've asked for $20,000 in addition to the $4,000 that we received for operations. Let me tell you a little bit about why the shelter needs to be expanded. We did a market survey with our application with NCFHA. In the recent 2 months when we were doing that survey, we had 39 women with 15 children seeking shelter that we couldn't house because we only have 3 rooms, which allows for 9 people. Depending on the family configuration, we may not be able to use all 9 beds because we can't combine women with multiple family settings in the same room. We also looked at other studies as far as where are these people coming from. We went to the North Carolina Housing Coalition study. In Beaufort County in 2023, 59 families faced foreclosure and 382 faced evictions from rentals. So there's a big need for the shelter that we just haven't been able to fulfill. We looked at other shelters in the areas to see, are there areas that can fulfill those needs? Of course, we do know that there's a domestic abuse shelter here in town, but not every situation when it involves eviction or foreclosure or someone that's hard on their luck is involved in that situation. We expanded our search, and we saw that in Greenville, they had 4 family rooms where children could be admitted with a mom. In Newbern, there were only 4. So when you look at that, basically east of 95, including the 3 we have here in Beaufort County, there is a limited number of space where folks can go, ladies with children, and feel safe. So our goal is to expand the shelter. I want to tell you guys that our application at NCFHA has gotten very good responses from the staff. We go before the board on June the 20th, and we're very excited about the opportunity to receive that funding. We're also going to seek other grants. We're not asking the county for the 30% match that we're going to need to get those funds. We're applying with State Employees Credit Union for a grant, and we're very hopeful to receive that. One of the things that they asked as far as another grantor coming in is, do we have local city and county support for this? And that $20,000 would go a long ways of showing that, yes, we do have support from our county. So, and we've also asked the city for the same amount. So with that, I'll entertain questions.
How large of an expansion are we talking?
3,092 square feet. We're going to add 2 more family rooms, so that'll give us 5 family rooms and 1 dorm room. So that'll kind of solve our problem with when we have single women coming in, they can be housed in the same dorm room. That'll be 6 beds in there, and we'll do 8 additional beds in the 2 family rooms.
Okay.
Another thing we're going to do is add some more community space. One of the barriers that we found in doing our study is that some women can't leave the shelter every day. So we basically have the shelter opened at night for women to sleep with their children. But some women are either too old or elderly. We had one lady on a walker that was having to leave the shelter every day. So with community volunteers, we begin to open that shelter during the daytime hours. We're open now 4 days a week. We also have enrichment classes that we're offering for how to fill out resumes, how to build job skills, family budgeting, financial literacy. So while the ladies are there during the day, we have other volunteers coming in, helping them build the skills that they need. And as you know, one of our major focuses is how to get these women into permanent housing. So those avenues with our caseworkers are continuing to be explored.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
All right.
Next item is on page 401, Holy Trinity Church.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Darius Scott, and I'm pastor at Holy Trinity Church. We are requesting your support as we push to address a long-standing need in this community, a day center to reach those who face homelessness and food insecurity in Beaufort County. There are only a couple of homeless facilities trying to meet the needs of the growing population of people that are poverty-stricken. Our day center will provide these citizens with a place to be welcome in, out of the elements. We hope to have case management to support their individual goals for improved circumstances and education and connections to navigate other community agencies and programs for which they may be eligible. We are asking for the county's financial support to cover the expansion of our clothing and food ministry to include this day center. This money will be used for rental, renovation, and operational costs to get the doors open. Some of the things that we have done, and we hope to do even greater with your support. As you can see, hopefully you got the proposals. It'll be a place open during the day of displaced individuals to visit without the risk of loitering, a place to get coffee, water, sandwiches, soup, to warm up or to cool off as the season dictates, receive gently used blankets and clothing, shoes from community donations, be informed of other benefits for which they may be eligible, connect with caring community representatives who are trained to listen and provide diversity-informed interactions. Once again, case management for goal setting and support. What we have a location right there at 1508 West 5th Street. It's a storefront sanctuary. Since we have moved, we were blessed to add a back area behind the main building, and we are growing with partnerships throughout the county so far. And we also have a partnership with the owner of the building for additional space if we can secure county support. We have been donating clothing, blankets, and shoes, and we have a little pantry out there where we give out for free, no cost. We give out clothing, we give out shoes, we give out food. You can go to our little pantry and get whatever you need. We ask the community to be a community, and to, if they take something and they're doing well, to replenish what we have out there, and we hope to grow that. At this time, I would ask Tina, Scott, and Alex if they want to kind of expand on the expansion we're looking for. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. It is a pleasure to stand before you today because I'm Beaufort County homegrown. So I take you guys as personally my commissioners, okay? And I have a love for this community because I learned what community is growing up from a child here. Nobody takes care of its people like people from Washington, like people from Beaufort County. So when the church was given this mission, we looked around to see how we could meet the need. As we heard from Open Door and a few other providers in the community, they are doing what they can. But when we've sat at the tables in the recent weeks in the ongoing discussion about how we can better serve the unhoused and the food insecure individuals, the repeat theme is they need a place to go during the day. They're walking away from shelters, walking in heat, walking in rain, walking in storms, because the shelters can't keep them. So what we're saying as a house of faith in this community is they're welcomed with us. We just need your help. So with your support of the $25,000 that we're asking, there is additional rental space that we can have access to in our same building, but it needs some work. It needs a bathroom installed. And since we're installing a bathroom, we want to make sure that someone who doesn't have access to a shower can get a shower when they come to visit us, if it's a need. We already do what we need to do for our Assembly of Faith on our rent side, but if we do this, we're taking on additional rent. So we're asking for the help with that additional rent of the $9,600. And then the additional utilities for the year is estimated at $2,400. And I skipped the bathroom renovation being about $12,000 is what we're estimating. So it's a big dream, but it's not impossible. And many hands make small work. And we're ready to open our hands to this great community.
There's already been some really good community involvement that they've had, and there's also volunteers who are open to learning how to better service people so that they can provide those resources and have kind of a one-stop shop for people who don't have all that access to food or to clothing and maybe don't know the resources that are available to them. So there is some trainings that have been discussed to get people up to date on being able to perform first aid if anything is needed, to give that provided resource and maybe mental health support on a basic level. And that's not included with the pricing, but that is something that we can continue to see community involvement in. So that community support, the more people are able to use it, the more it's expected to grow. So we did have some proposed looks at how we'll be able to help more and more people, because as there's more space for people to come, there's more people that are going to be talking about it and telling their friends or people that they know that are in similar situations, so that they are also able to access those resources available. But this would just be the starting point for everything like that.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Booth?
Did you say this was a day center?
A day center.
So y'all don't, at certain hours, just during the day when they leave the shelter, they have somewhere to go?
Yes, sir. We would have set hours for when, like, they don't have a place, like Open Door was just speaking of, they could come in and have a place.
Now, you say you give them shoes and blankets and stuff like that?
We have done that.
We
We are currently doing that now.
Okay.
For the church. That's what we're currently doing.
But hoping to do it
In
and
a grand-
expand
yes,
onto
in
more
a-
people.
In a bigger scale.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other commissioner? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So your next item is on page 405, the food bank of the Albemarle.
Want to see it?
Okay. Your next one's on 415, and I apologize on that one. You got a space in there in your spreadsheet. You have the agenda item on page 415. It looks like we have a ghost in the printer because it didn't print that line. So that's green lamp.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Crystal Gwendo, the Deputy Director for Green Lamp Community Action. And first of all, let me just say thank you for your contribution last fiscal year. Just a recap of what we do, we've been in the community since 1965, where we take individuals from crayons to careers. We give a hand up, not a hand out. Where intensive social work is to our core and assisting individuals and families to reach a level of self-sufficiency. So what did we do with your contribution last year? Well, I am happy to tell you guys what we did. So we assisted 26 families to date, 78 individuals. 5 of those families were for rapid rehousing. They were already homeless. 14 of those were homelessness prevention, so they already had an eviction notice and were going to be evicted. 6 of those homelessness prevention individuals were seniors, and 7 families were assisted with utility assistance. 8 of those families went through finance or budget training. So this year we're requesting the same amount. We already have the CSBG program, the Community Service Block Grant, that covers Beaufort County, and that is about $142,000, and that will be reduced to $129,000. But you know, the resources are going down, but the needs still stay the same. And if you're asking, you know, where did we spend that money in particular, commissioners, if you would like to know? Some of the cities were Washington, Chocowinity, Belhaven were our top 3, and then Aurora and Bath. So those were our counties that we served to date so far. We're asking for the same amount to continue the work and to act as a buffer to the Community Service Block Grant to continue to extend the needs in the county. Any questions?
Questions from commissioners?
Why did they reduce the block grant by that much?
That is a great question, sir. So the Community Service Block Grant is based on population, and how they do that is based on the census. So when people don't fill out the census, it makes it seems like no one's living in Beaufort County. So they go, the population has decreased in Beaufort County, so the needs must have decreased in Beaufort County. But we know that's not correct. People just did not
complete the census.
Any other questions?
One, how many counties you cover?
We cover 8 counties.
And the other counties contribute to your organization?
Yes, sir. So for the Community Service Block Grant, it is based on, the funding is based on counties.
Okay.
So-
No, what my question was, the other counties contribute to it?
Yes, sir. We do go and request, like now, to advocate for additional funding, especially if the funding is decreasing in that county.
Okay.
And again, the funding that is given from Beaufort County stays in Beaufort County.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On page 421, you have the Pantego Community Center.
That's the 1.5. Well, no one's here, so we'll continue.
Okay, so now we move into your enterprise funds on page.
Let me ask one question before you go there. The third, there's a column here, estimated initial net cost in what we just finished. This is the increase that's being asked for, not what we've been giving them.
That's correct. That's anything on top of, so that's the increase. Like if there was a revenue offset, that's why we show that net. So we have the estimated cost, and then we have any revenue offset, and then we give you the net, and then we show whether it's a recurring number or not. Yes, sir.
Okay, it says cost, but it's actually net increase.
They didn't ask for an increase.
Right. It's called.
Yeah. Okay, that takes care of me.
So we'll move to the enterprise funds on page 427. This is the water fund, and this is simply the same, it's the same general request on the 401K contribution because we have water department employees who are paid out of the water fund. If you approve the general fund 401K, then we would look to you to ask you to approve that as well. So we'll move on to page 429, which is the solid waste enterprise fund. The very first one of that one on page 428 is the, on page 430 is the same thing. That's the 401K because we do have a small percentage that comes out of the solid waste fund. And then the rest of these are solid waste items starting on page 431, and Wes will work through all of those.
Hello again. Pleasantly surprised. I expected this to be a lot later, and it looked like a Wild West town with tumbleweeds blowing through here. So, first one I want to talk about is the collection site repairs phase 2. As you're aware, this current fiscal year, funding was appropriated for phase 1 of this project, which addressed needs at River Road, Cherry Run, and Chocowinity. And prior to that, we did repairs at Yatesville. So 4 of our 10 sites have had repairs done to them in the past 2.5 years, I think is the stretch of time. So this request is to address the needs at the remaining 6 sites operated throughout the county, which includes Pantego or Beach Ridge, Ransomville, the landfill gate site, 5 Points, Buck Jones, and Aurora. And you see there's a chart that is a summary of the task for all of the sites. Again, these are broken down into 6 separate sites, but this is just the roll-up amount of those tasks. If you have any additional questions on those, I can help expand on that. I don't want to take too much time if we don't need to.
Questions?
Which of those sites are we going to likely close? I guess I should preface that, if we do the mega site.
The only site, the only 2 sites out of those 6 that we own are Ransomville and Landfill Gate. We haven't really fully addressed closing any sites.
Right.
It's been thrown out there a little bit, but nothing has been decided on that for certain.
And what would the time frame be?
To complete this project, hopefully, just like this year, we'd have it done 6 months to 8 months, if I had to guess. It will kind of depend on if we decide to do this as one big project where we do all of them at one time, and just rotate around, or if we kind of split it up and do a couple of different rounds of projects. Don't anticipate it being as big of an ordeal as the previous 3 this year, because of the extensive repairs that were done at those 3 sites.
You would say the worst is behind us.
There's still a lot that needs to be done, but when it comes to, I don't want this to come across incorrectly, but when it comes to the number of people that are being inconvenienced by closing a site, the worst is behind us.
Good answer.
I do want to throw this out there. This is a pretty comprehensive list of tasks that needs to be done at this site. If this number is not acceptable, we would ask what number is acceptable, and then we would look to reduce any scope of repairs to fit that. Obviously, we really need to take care of some of these safety items. I know that the safety rails are not popular. They are needed at every site. Lighting is needed. We have times where there are people out there when it's dark, and lighting improvements are needed. So there's a minimum that needs to be done, and this is the maximum that needs to be done. It's not necessarily a want list, but it's the maximum need, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
All right, I will, I've got a lot of items here, so I'd like to kind of address the 3 items that include the enforcement officer kind of as a group. I don't want to rehash those as we're going along. So what I'd like to start with is kind of what we envision. Again, this is another request from last year that we've come before y'all again with. And a solid waste enforcement officer would help us enforce the recently enacted solid waste ordinance. A lot of this time would be spent on illegal dumping, helping to take care of that. And they would be the person responsible for receiving, processing, investigating, and resolving the complaints that were submitted by the citizens or that they found themselves as they were going throughout the county. In addition to that, we would expect them to perform some limited cleanup duties. You know, if they're riding along, they see 2 or 3 bags of trash on the side of the road, stop and pick them up, check them out, and go ahead and take care of it while they're there. Put it in the back of the truck and take it off and get it off the side of the road.
Write a warning letter.
Yes, there definitely would, if we had the ability, there was something found in that trash, we would take care of that. But they would fix the problem at the time that it's happened, so it doesn't encourage future violations if it's something like that.
Done that job myself.
Yes, it's not a fun task. Additionally, if we did have projects where there was a larger cleanup and we had to call a contractor in to work on that, this person would be responsible for making sure that was completed and properly, and the appropriate parties were addressed on that. So again, there is a request for a full-time officer, a part-time officer, and the part-time officer would be, we've calculated for 20 hours a week. We believe that there is more than enough out there for a full-time officer. Part-time officer is to get somebody started on these tasks that need to be done. The third request is for this solid waste enforcement officer to supervise at times a cleanup crew consisting of offenders housed in the Department of Corrections. This item would, like I said, would supervise a 3-person inmate work crew. They would perform services, we're thinking on average 3 days a week. Could be more, could be less. The officer and myself, we would receive training from the Department of Corrections on the proper procedures for this. And then the enforcement officer would have to travel to The closest location is Hyde County Correctional Facility, to pick up the inmates and drop them off at the end of the day. The county would have to pay Department of Corrections $1 per inmate per day, and would also have to provide safety training, safety equipment, and meals for the inmates while they were in our care. A couple of things I'd like to point out on this. The drive to and from Hyde County Correctional Facility, just from Washington, is an hour each way. So you're automatically losing time where a solid waste enforcement officer would be working, taking care of tasks for drive time. And I will say this, these three items ranked in our priority order. Number one would be full-time officer by themselves. Number two would be part-time. Number three would be with the inmate cleanup crew. We were asked to explore the inmate cleanup crew by some other departments. That's why it's being presented. It's not something we are necessarily bringing forth on our own.
Because I'm going to ask you a question. If you talking about an inmate, you talking about a misdemeanor or a felon? I mean, because, well, still, they have felons in Hyde County.
No. It's the state.
It does not matter. I mean, the thing about it is, an escaping felon can be shot.
Will you have a gun?
No.
Well, I'm just going to say this. That's to me, that's a bad idea. That's really a bad idea.
We would certainly be at the Department of Corrections decision of who these offenders were that are eligible for this program.
And I say it's a bad idea from a liability standpoint. If they escaped from Beaufort County. And so that makes us liable for whatever they go out there and do. So no, that is a terrible idea.
If you want to go and lose the election, you can apply.
Again, that's why I wanted to throw out our priority list for these three items.
Well,
So
having some experience in this area, I can tell you this. If that part-time guy goes out and starts doing his job and mailing a few letters, you're going to be amazed at the cleanup effect that you're going to have immediately, because once the word gets out about enforcement, a lot of people straighten up real quick.
I think there's the potential for that to happen, but there's a lot of it around. It's going to take some time for it all to get taken care of.
And if I lose my election, I'll be a preacher full-time.
Any further questions on those three items?
No.
Okay. The next one kind of mixed in there is the household hazardous waste collection event. Obviously, we are in the process of holding our first one. This was not planned at the time we submitted the items for the budget. Again, that was something that came together last minute when we saw we were going to have the funding available to take care of that. However, I will say that we do desire to continue that service each year, and we do desire to do 2 of them a year. We'd love to have one on the north side one time of the year and one on the south side, to make it where everybody can fairly get to them. Again, the number that is out there is an estimate. It all is dependent upon what volume of materials received. Based on other locations that have offered these services, we feel like 20,000 is enough to cover what we expect to receive.
Questions? Go ahead, John.
I think we probably need to have a discussion about whether this is a budget item or it's part of solid waste.
Well, it's a budget item within solid waste.
Correct.
Well, but we're not adding that to the solid waste.
Yes, this is enterprise fund expansion, so it's a solid waste enterprise fund.
But we didn't, okay.
The money just comes out of the
So the discussion is, do we raise the,
20,000.
You would need to look for a recurring revenue in the solid waste
Right.
fund for
That's
a
what
recurring expenditure, yes, sir.
But you've got a fund balance, and this is peanuts in the fund balance.
It might be good, but I think it's in our budget this year to raise solid waste fees already, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
you're
we're
raising
proposing.
them to maintain your fund balance. You still got a healthy fund balance. It's peanuts in the fund balance.
There's a $1.6 million fund balance in the solid waste fund. And we are proposing to go from a current rate of 180 to 188, an $8 increase to cover just inflationary increases on the hauling and pickup and hauling of the trash, processing, and also adding the service of being open on Saturdays and piloting that for 6 months.
So you're funded.
Right, but you also have to remember, we haven't funded the solid waste mega sites yet.
Let me say one thing.
Go ahead.
Talked to Gary Chrisman last night. He was an advocate for us opening on Saturday. He wanted me to thank all the commissioners for him, that we're going to be open and test, and we'll see how it goes.
Anything further? Your last item?
I will just say on this one that if that was approved, obviously that money would be earmarked for that purpose, where right now we're just having to pull it out of what we have in the funding to make it work if we have that available at the end of the year. So, but yeah, I'll move to the last one. This is again something we've brought up recently. This is recycling of aluminum cans and plastic bottles. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this since it is rehashing it. Recycling services for aluminum cans and plastic bottles have not been offered in several years due to cost increases. Those are two items that are banned from disposal in North Carolina in a landfill. This proposal, again, would only accept those two items. We'd collect them at two locations. That would be the landfill gate on the north side and Buck Jones on the south side. They're centrally located. They experience less traffic, which allows the site attendant more time to monitor what's being dropped off and availability of space for the containers. These containers would be hauled by Public Services and taken to RDS, the Materials Recovery Facility in Greenville. And the price on this proposal, we have factored in a contamination charge for 10% of the materials based on what we were quoted. So that bumps it up a little bit versus just the disposal of the material. We factored that in because we fully expect there would be some amount of contamination. Any questions on that? It's pretty much what was presented a few months ago.
Any questions from commissioners? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Brian?
Yes, sir. So that essentially wraps it up for tonight on your service expansions. You're off next week budget-wise. Your next budget discussion, or the next time you touch the budget, will be at your June the 3rd regular board meeting, in which we will hold the public hearing on the budget, where you'll receive comments from the public on the proposed budget. Your next workshop is the next night on June the 4th, Tuesday, June the 4th, starting at 5 o'clock, and that will be to finalize the budget. And then you have the 10th, June the 10th, the next Monday, scheduled as a special called meeting to vote on the budget.
Can I ask one thing?
Just go ahead.
I'm going to be here on the 3rd. I'm going to be here on the 4th. I've got a scheduled thing I've got to do on the 10th. Is there any way we can meet before the 10th, and so I can be here for that last vote? I'd like to be here if at all possible. If we can't do it, I'd like to be permitted and have the approval of the board to not have to be here, and my vote will count as a abstention.
Well, let me say this. The 5th, 6th, and 7th, I'll be gone. But what do we have the 11th?
11th would be great for me.
Assembly Day.
That's right. What's the next?
When is our next workshop?
Next workshop is the 4th to finalize the budget, Tuesday, June the 4th.
Do it on the 4th.
They got to be able to do the budget ordinance. So what other day do we have that week? Because the County Advocacy Day is the 11th and 12th. So 13, which is at Thursday.
Is that the second Thursday? Yes. I can't be here the second Thursday. Why can't you just finalize the budget on that workshop night? And finalize the budget then? Would we need to do some action now in order to be able to do that?
The challenge that we run into is when you finalize that budget, we need to put together the budget ordinance because you essentially vote on the budget ordinance. Right. Because that's the ordinance that essentially sets it.
Is there anything on the 5th of June? Is that?
I won't be here on the 5th.
Oh, that's right.
5th, 6th, and 7th.
Yeah, 5th, 6th.
Oh, okay. I'm with you.
And I'm gone 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th.
Well, on the 5th,
Yeah.
On the 5th, I'm leaving probably, I mean, if it's something that we can do between 8 and 12, I can do it.
Why can't we do it after 12? Why can't you just put it into the next week?
After the 12th?
You can't do it on the 12th because that is the, that's Assembly.
No, I mean, the week of the 12th. Why can't you just put it off? If the 10th is the last, right now we're scheduled to finalize it on the 10th, why don't you just move it into the next week?
Okay, hold on.
17.
Any day the next week. That ought to free everybody up.
My calendar's on the car, I don't know what
I'll vote
But you're going to vote against it anyways, Dan.
I'm like, how about vote in it?
We'll carry it.
Well, he wants to be on record.
You can vote twice and say one's for you.
So what about the following Monday, the 17th? Is there something that day? I know we got a water committee meeting that morning.
It's good with me.
Let me look at the 17th.
I mean, we don't have to wait till 5 o'clock. I mean, we can do the water committee meeting and roll right over into the
You can.
budget workshop,
Which day are you looking
the 17th
Of June.
of June. So that should fix everybody. And except for Frankie, we don't know whether the chairman, if he has a,
That's just too bad. You're gonna have to figure something.
at? Well, I think it's only appropriate if we're moving it for one person.
Right.
To make sure that somebody else isn't going to be affected.
Contingent upon.
yeah.
Yeah, make a call.
Yeah, let's find out about him, and then,
If that's the case, you'll have to advertise it, won't you? Because it's a special call meeting. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So you're moving the 10th to the 17th.
So once the chairman says he can be there, then it can be advertised.
Right.
Okay.
John, you check your calendar before you leave.
Pick an alternate date in
okay.
case the chairman can't be there. What about the 18th?
that's fine.
That's fine, too.
So you got a backup date.
The 19th is Juneteenth.
Yeah.
That's a Saturday.
So on the
Yeah, it's a
17th,
Wednesday.
you're looking at that morning, like 10 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. And then any particular, if that
Yes,
doesn't
Monday.
work, is there a particular time on Tuesday, on the
All the
18th?
time.
You know, they'll probably move that water meeting because a lot of it was contingent upon what we come up with at the budget.
No.
No?
No,
Not that one?
it's contingent on what we do as a board on the 3rd.
Right, oh, okay, that's right, the 3rd. Gotcha.
I want to have that half a person prior to it.
So if we could just find out the answer about the 17th, I think we should be,
And the 18th at 10 o'clock too?
yes,
10 o'clock. It is
10 o'clock either day.
Okay,
Monday or Tuesday.
sounds good. And the clerk will notify us.
Yeah. Do we recess or adjourn since it's so far off? Recess. All right, we'll entertain a motion to recess until,
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We're done.
Special court.